In previous days, Sayadaw has been explaining that by being mindful of the nama rupa that are arising due to their circumstances and conditions, by noting the nama rupa with aiming and effort, with sustained mindfulness, viriya, sati and samadhi, effort, mindfulness and concentration develops, and the mind is calm, collected. When samadhi khanda, the concentration group made up of viriya, sati and samadhi, effort, mindfulness and concentration develops, the mind is free from priyuttana kilesa, obsessive defilements. Noting the object with aim and effort, yogi becomes skilled in noting. The noting mind and the object is concurrent. There will be samma sankappa, right application, and yogi discerns the truth. Yogi discerns distinctly between nama and rupa, cause and effect, and yogis also discern that the nama rupa that are connected as cause and effect arise and pass away, and thus they are impermanent. And yesterday, Sayadaw explained that anicca, one should discern the impermanent, and anicca lakkhana, one should discern the characteristic of impermanence. In anicca nupassana, one should also discern the knowledge of impermanence, and Sayadaw explained from both theoretical and practical aspects. Yogis who practice meticulously, respectfully, they will understand from their practice, and yogis will understand what are the benefits of the practice from their experience of practice. So Sayadaw will explain why one should be mindful of the nama rupa that are arising at the present moment, and what will be the bad consequences by failing to be mindful of these nama and rupa. Yogis have to be mindful of the presently arising object in order to discern. Bhutan bhutato passati. One has to be mindful of the presently arising object in order to discern. And Sayadaw will explain what bad consequences will arise by not discerning. Sayadaw explains that one should be mindful of the object that arises at the moment the object arises by the way of satipatthana practice. One should note the object with sustained mindfulness. If the person fails to assert effort in the practice, it shows that the person does not have strong wish to purify the body and speech. Not having strong wish, the person does not assert effort. The mind will be slack and sluggish. Kosaja, laziness, will arise. And Sayadaw explained that laziness is the nearest internal enemy that gives the most trouble to the yogi who begins to practice. When the laziness creeps in, then the person does not want to exert effort in the high-class practice. The mind becomes sluggish, slimy, and tinamita, sloth and torpor, arises. When the noting mind and the object is not direct or face-to-face, when the noting mind is not aimed onto the object, there will be micca vitakka, wrongful thoughts. There will be kama vitakka, sensual thoughts, wanting to see good things, wanting to hear good sounds, and so on. There will be thoughts how to get these pleasant objects to be seen, to be heard, and so on. Yabhata vitakka, ill will thoughts arise when there is dissatisfaction, anger, aversion towards one person or a group, and there will be the wish to destroy others. So the dosa, anger, destroys the mind, and also wanting to give trouble to others. And there can be envy, jealousy, stinginess, wanting others to suffer. There will be vihimsa vitakka, the thoughts, cruelty thoughts, wanting to give trouble. One should be mindful of the object, aiming, directing the mind onto the object. If the person fails to aim the noting mind onto the object, these three wrongful thoughts can arise. As the humans are in the realm of sensual world, usually when there is lack of mindfulness, the mind will be left unprotected, unguarded, and wholesome, especially unwholesome mind can arise. And if there is lack of protection, unwholesomeness arise most of the time, as there is no protection, no security by lack of mindfulness. Lack of mindfulness, the mind will not be calm and collected. The mind will be scattered. The mind will be stray without any control. One will discern correctly only if the mind falls calm and collected on the object. When samadhi concentration does not develop, the person will not discern correctly, and thus there will be uncertainty, doubt, dim and vague about the object, delusion, ignorance, not knowing correctly, knowing wrongly. Not knowing correctly is called apatipatti avijja. Knowing wrongly is micca patipatti avijja. These two kinds of ignorance. So, when there is not knowing and knowing wrongly, one will believe in wrong things. There will be wrong belief, wrong view, and thus the person will continue to hold wrong view and wrong belief. Not being mindful, the unwholesome mind will be overwhelming, and thus indulging in these unwholesomeness, the person commits wrongdoing by body and speech. especially because the humans are in the sensual realm. When the mind is left uncontrolled, unprotected, mostly the mind goes to sensual desire with lust on the opposite sex, and most of the people are spending much of their time with these sensual thoughts and with lust. Buddha teaching is that the visible objects that are seen with the eyes, the sounds that are heard by the ears, the smells, the fragrance that are smelled by the nose, the flavor and the taste taken by the tongue, and the tangible objects that are coming into contact with the body, and other mental objects that arise in the mind. These striker elements come into the receptor element, and there will be ignition element, such as seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, hearing contact, hearing feeling, and so on. So the seeing consciousness, hearing consciousness, smelling consciousness, tasting consciousness, touching consciousness, knowing consciousness, they arise as the result of the deeds done in the past. So rather than stopping there, rather than being mindful of the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing, if there is lack of mindfulness, then there will be nimitta sankappa and anubhyasana sankappa.
Nimitta sankappa.
Sorry, right here. Nimitta means the sign of whether it is a man or a woman. So if there are visible objects to be seen, the person take it as a man or a woman. Taking it as a man or a woman is the cause for the defilement to arise. So the man will regard the other as women, the woman will regard the other as men. There will be mutual interest among themselves, which are the cause for defilement to arise. So when the person looks at the other person, the form or shape of the body as a whole, such that it is a beautiful person or a handsome person, or say regarding the other person as someone who has good body shape, who has good build, there will be concept of man, a woman, and it is the cause for defilement to arise. So when seeing the shape of the person as a whole, regarding as a man, a woman, there will be nimitta sankappa or nimitta gaha, regarding the other as man, women. So based on the form or shape of the person, one will take it as a man or a woman, and it is called nimitta sankappa or nimitta gaha. So it doesn't stop at the stage of nimitta gaha or nimitta kappana, looking at the form or shape of a man or a woman as a whole, but it goes on. There will be mutual interest among each other, and one will keep on looking at the other with interest, and it will go on to listening, smelling, tasting, touching, and so on. So after looking at the other person as a whole, one goes into details, looking at the other person's features in detail, thinking that the hands are beautiful, how the body is proportionate, how the face is beautiful, how the eyebrows are, the eyelashes, teeth, chin, cheeks, the way the person smiles, beautiful, handsome. In this way, the person goes into detail of the other person. The more the detail the person looks at, the defilements will be increased, and it is becoming Anubhyasana Kaha or Anubhyasana Kapana when the person takes a look into the detail of the body of the other person, taking them as beautiful, handsome, and so on. So the example is given here. Eating the rice alone, it will not be as appetizing. So there should be dishes, sweet, sour, salty, in order to appetize, so that it will be tasty. So taking rice with the various dishes, it will be more tasty and it will be more appetizing. In the same way, when looking at the other person as a whole, as beautiful men, beautiful women, handsome men, the defilements arise. And going into details of the person, there will be more defilements arising by leaps and bounds. Going into detail, it will be Anubhyasana Kaha or Anubhyasana Kapana, and this is done by ordinary people. And even when practicing, some of the people are distracted by this Nimitta Kapana and Anubhyasana Kapana if there is lack of mindfulness. When the yogi is not mindful of the object, if the mind is left unprotected, unguarded, then Nimitta Kapana and Anubhyasana Kapana will arise. That will lead to the defilements from arising. So in the worldly field, there are Nimitta Kaha, regarding others as men or women as a whole, and later on it becomes Anubhyasana Kapana or Anubhyasana Kaha, going into details. And when there is someone that the person is interested of, the person wants to see the other person, wants to have conversation with the other person, and so on. Not being mindful of the nama rupa that are arising at the sixth sense door, there will be wrong view of jiva atta, taking them as person, being, man, woman, and such wrong view of jiva atta overwhelms the person. And they believe that seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching is all done by jiva atta, the living soul. And they believe that even though the person dies, the jiva atta will still be alive. In this way, there will be not knowing, knowing wrongly. Not knowing cause and effect, the person believes in Paramatta or the Ekara, the Supreme Soul. They believe that the Supreme Soul is creating other things. So in this way, not discerning the Nama Rupa, not discerning cause and effect, the wrong view of Jiva Atta, individual soul, the wrong view of Paramatta, Supreme Soul, will arise. Not being mindful of the Nama Rupa, the person will not be practicing according to the teaching of the Buddha. There is the teaching of the Buddha that one should be mindful of the Nama Rupa that are arising at the present moment in order to discern them. By being mindful of the objects that are arising at the present moment, one will discern correctly. Failing to be mindful of the object, there will be wrong view that it is a being, person, man, woman. Such concepts will arise, and there will be avijja, ignorance, not knowing correctly, knowing wrongly. Not discerning correctly, there will be wrong view, and there will be craving. When the person is attached with other person, then the person will want to see the other person, wants to talk with other person, and as the greed grows in degree, it will go to dasna, craving. There will be minor craving that is increased to the stronger craving, and there will also be wrong view that it is I who is seeing, and so on, and there will also be ditthi, wrong view. In this way, the defilements arise by lack of mindfulness. Not being mindful at the moment of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing, these defilements can arise by lack of mindfulness. Not being mindful of the presently arising object, not practicing according to the right path, the defilements arise by lack of mindfulness. One will be looking at the other as a whole, and one will look into the details, and the defilements arise, taking it as person, being, man, woman. Not being mindful at the present moment, there will be concept of man, woman, taking them as beautiful, handsome, and kilesa, defilements, arise. Not being mindful of these objects, not observing them, the person will not discern. Not discerning, there will be not knowing, knowing wrongly, and there will be attachment, craving, taking the other as handsome or beautiful, and there will also be craving, clinging. There will also be ditthi, wrong view, believing as jiva atta, the individual soul, and the Brahma atta, the supreme soul, that the supreme soul is creating. In this way, there will be avijja, ignorance, tanha, craving, and upadana, clinging. By being mindful at the present moment, the defilement will have no chance to arise. Being mindful, the defilements which are the cause of suffering has no chance to arise. So yogi should follow the teachings of the Buddha by practicing accordingly, and yogis should have faith and confidence in the practice and practice according to the teachings. Not being mindful of the objects that are arising at the sixth sense door, the defilements, avijja, ignorance, tanha, craving, and upadana, clinging, will arise continuously apart from sleeping hours. So apart from sleeping hours, in seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing, these defilements, avijja, tanha, and upadana, will arise continuously like a stream of current. Because they are current of arising, they are called vata, and as these defilements arise, the defilements flow continuously, it is called kilesa vata, the round of defilements. Based on the defilements, gross, medium, and refined, there will be transgressions by body and speech. With avijja, ignorance, one may be doing wholesome things like doing dana or sila, or helping others with metta and karuna, but mostly based on defilements, there will be wrongful deeds. So based on avijja, ignorance, there will be wholesome and unwholesome deeds, which are called kamavata, round of deeds. Doing wholesome and unwholesome deeds, the action has passed, but there leaves the potency to give the result. And there will be vipaka vata, the round of resultants. So in this way, when there are kilesa, defilements, there will be kilesa vata, round of defilements, that leads to kamma vata, round of deeds, that leads to vipaka vata, round of resultants. And such three rounds will keep on rotating continuously without a stop. And Seraji will continue to explain tomorrow. Sadhu, sadhu.